let's stand and offer praise to our Lord. He is worthy.
When all I see is the battle, you see my victory. When all I see is a mountain, you see a mountain move. And as I walk through the shadow, your love surrounds me. There's nothing to fear now, for I am safe with you. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Every fear I lay at your feet, and I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. And if you are for me, who can be against me? For Jesus, there's nothing impossible for you. When all I see are the ashes, you see the beauty. When all I see is a cross, God, you see the empty tomb. So when I fight, I'll fight on my knees with my hands lifted high. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. And every fear I lay at your feet, and I'll sing through the night. Oh God, the battle belongs to you. Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. Almighty fortress, you go before us. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. You shine in the shadows, you win every battle. Nothing can stand against the power of our God. Almighty fortress,
singing yes to God, not to our plans, not to our desires. We're laying them down at his feet through song and through worship, and hopefully with all of our hearts, that we would say, yes, God, whatever your plans are, we surrender our ways of doing things. If you're like me, sometimes it's hard to do. We have our mind set on something, and it's hard to lay that down. But God is calling us this morning to be willing to do that and to listen to his plan and to say yes to it. Whether it has to do with our idea of marriage compared to his idea of marriage, our idea of finances compared to his idea of finances, no matter what it is, God has a plan better than we can imagine if we'll simply say yes. So let's sing this out one more time and say yes, and then we're going to continue with songs of surrender. Sing this out. Sing yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Sing yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy and all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will. I'm going to teach you a new song. Just echo after Lisa as she leads us.
You love with no reservation. You love with no reservation. You're not looking for perfection. You're not looking for perfection. And there's no need for me pretending. No need for me. I'll give you everything. I'll give you everything. You deserve my full attention. You deserve my full attention. Nothing less than my devotion. Nothing less than my devotion. Oh, speak to me and I will listen. I'll give you everything. I'll give you everything.
Sing this with us. Sing, oh,
oh, oh, oh. You can have my heart. You can have my heart. You can have my heart. Oh, you can have my heart. You can have my heart. Be the Lord of my emotions. Set me free from selfish motives. Search me till there's nothing hidden. I'll give you everything. I'll give you everything. Oh, you can have. You can have. Every piece of my heart is yours. My heart is yours forever. Hallelujah. My heart is yours forever. My heart is yours forever. If you want my heart, you got it. You got it. If you want my heart, you got it. You got it. If you want my heart, Lord, you got it. You got it. Oh, you
Give him every part of your heart. Oh, you can have my heart. You can have my heart.
Father God, we just give you glory. We give you praise, Father, not only with our lips and from our throat, Father, but deep within us, from our heart, from the darkest places of our hearts that you already know about, with the joys of our lives. Father, we praise you. We give you glory and we give you honor. Father, we trust you. You are a God that is faithful and you are true. We thank you that you are a God full of love and just. We thank you that we get to serve you and be a part of your family. Father, as we sing these words where we say that you can have my heart and search me and know me, and there's no place to be without you. Father, I pray that you help us to understand the gravity of the words that we are saying. I pray, Father, that you will shine light in the dark areas of our life that maybe we don't even know about, but you know are things that are keeping us from you, from fully experiencing you. I pray, God, that you help us to make us more available to you. Let our minds be clear, not confused. May our eyes see. May we love others with the same type of love that you give. I pray, God, that you help us to be available to your kingdom and for your glory. In the name of Jesus, we say this prayer. Amen.
Narrow as the road may seem, I'll follow where your spirit leads. Broken as my life may be, I will give you every piece. I hear you call. I am available.
a sacrifice. Use me how you want to, God. Have your throne upon my heart.
You want my heart, you've got it, you got it, you got it. You want my heart, you've got it, you got it.
Sing that out.
You got it. You want my heart, you got it, you got it, you got it. You want my heart, you got it, you got it. You want my time, you got it, you got it, you got it. You want my mind, you got it, you got it, you got it. You want my wealth, you got it, you got it, you got it. You want my all, you got it, you got it. Oh, oh, you can have my heart, you can have my heart. I give it to you, Lord. Oh, you can have my heart, you can have my heart.
We sing, I surrender all. Lift your voice.
I surrender
Beloved Savior,
all to thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender all.
Let's lift up that prayer. Give him everything that we have. God, we surrender it to you. Not just with our lips, but with all our hearts. Sing, I surrender all. I surrender all to thee, my blessed Savior. I surrender.
Amen. What a great way to start this morning. As you're seated, turn to Luke chapter 19. And while you're turning, our kids are going to be heading out to Children's Church. If you're a guest with us, that's up through the 5th grade, and they're welcome to head right out to the main lobby, and they can follow the other kids over to our Kids Cove. Well, we are so glad you're here this morning. And in fact, I want to tell you, if you're watching online, I was told in the first service that my shirt looks electric, was the way that they said it. They said, Pastor, if you just stand still this morning, the way the lights are hitting it, so I'm going to do my best to just stay in one spot. It's going to be hard. It's asking a lot, but I'm going to try to stay put so it doesn't drive you guys that are watching online crazy. For the rest of you this morning, man, we are glad you're here. It's good to see faces again. And hey, look around. I mean, our crowds are picking up. The first service was a great attendance. You put them all together, and we'd still be a little too tight in here. So it's a good problem to have, and we are just glad you're back. Well, listen, I'm going to jump right in because we have a lot to get through this morning, and I got some things to tell you about at the end, so let's just jump in. And I so appreciate Pastor Robert and our praise team. What a great lead-in to this morning, just talking to the Lord and being grateful through song. So, listen, you understand my role as a pastor goes far beyond just teaching just book studies and things like that. In fact, you understand that I'm supposed to teach you the deeper truths of Scripture. I'm supposed to be teaching you practical applications of Scripture. There are precepts, there are principles, there are topics, there are deep dives. I mean, there's so much in the Word. And why is that? Why do we have to cover all of it? Because when it comes to these times in our lives, we need to know how to rightly divide the word of truth. Rightly dividing the word of truth is in chaotic times, in times of uncertainty, in times where there are difficulties, that Christ followers, we who believe the Scriptures, know how to dig into them, to properly apply them, to properly understand them, to navigate these troubled waters, for us to know what to do, so that when others look at us, they understand that we've got a confidence that they don't have. We've got faith over fear. We're not messed up by the things around us because we have our eyes fixed on eternity. So in that, I want you to understand that we as a church cover a lot of different things. Today's going to be a topical study. I've been going through a marriage series because if you've been here for any length of time, you understand that I went through the book of Acts. I know some of you thought, is this ever going to end? We just spent months and months going chapter by chapter through the book of Acts. Then we went into the book of James, and we went chapter by chapter through the book of James. And then all of a sudden, man, our world flipped upside down. And we started dealing with issues around us that people didn't know what to do. They had uncertainty. We were, for the first time, facing some of these things, and people were asking, what does the Scripture say? How is a Christian supposed to respond? We dealt with issues of racism. We dealt with issues of defunding authorities, the police. We dealt with issues of not so peaceful protesters. We dealt with issues of cancel culture, and we're still dealing with that. I want you to understand that Christians are going to be next on some of these things. We have prayed for and talked about the persecuted church around the world for years. And the reality is that we're starting to see some of that in our own country. It will only get worse. The scriptures, as you study them out, you see what ends up happening in those end times, and you see what will come our way. No longer will we have, as we did in years past, an issue of a comfortable Christianity, a convenient Christianity. We're going to be experiencing what we call a Christianity, a faith of conviction. I know people have thrown that term around for years. Oh, I have this conviction. I'm going to tell you something. I don't think I've heard one real conviction in my entire lifetime. I'll hear people say, oh, I'm convicted about singing these songs. I'm convicted about this Bible version. I'm convicted about my hair being this way or my clothes being this way. Those aren't convictions. Those are preferences. Convictions you're willing to die for. Yet have I to come across anybody that says, I don't like that song so much, I'm willing to die over it. Those are preferences, they're not convictions. Let's talk truth here. But the day is coming where we as believers, even here in what is now becoming more of a post-Christian society, are going to come to a point where we're going to have to understand what our real convictions are and know what Scripture teaches so we know how to stand firm in the truth. We've seen all this stuff around us and people asking questions. Remember when we saw CHOP and then Chaz, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, and where it was one of these things to where that was a real insurrection that lasted a month. The authorities are not allowed in. We're setting up our own government and all these things that are taking place. Then a worldwide pandemic. And people are saying, what does the Bible say about this? What does the Bible say? How are we going to answer this? So we started going to topics instead of some of the book studies. In this chaos, these lockdowns, these quarantines, all the working from home conditions, you're seeing more stress on marriages now than you've seen in a long time. I've given you the statistics over the last few weeks. I'm not going to repeat all that this morning, but the truth is that there are marriages under attack. And so I'm taking time over the next several weeks, and we're addressing topics that are practical to everybody. So whether you're married in here or not, what we're talking about today is going to be beneficial for you. But for those of you that are married, we're going to close out and wrap up with some principles that are specifically for you this morning. So stay focused. Let me review quickly. We started out a couple weeks ago talking about God's design for marriage. God's grand design, His blueprint for marriage. It's not popular today, but it has not changed. We talked about the habits of happy hubbies. Hopefully you put some of those into practice. They're just common sense principles. Went through them rapid fire, hit the highlights, gave you a sheet to take home and study a little bit more. Hopefully you're not counting on me to do all your feeding through the week for you, right? You're going home, you're studying a little bit deeper, you're digging a little bit deeper, you're feeding yourself throughout the week. Well then, last week we talked about commitment being the key. And commitment really is the key. As I mentioned, if our faith is going to grow, if we're going to have a faith that lasts, then commitment is the key. If you're going to have a marriage that lasts, you ask these couples that have been married 50 plus years, what's the key? It's commitment. There are good days, there are bad days. Today we're going to talk about finances. You say, oh, are you serious? I showed up today of all days. You might be visiting with us and you go, they're going to talk about money. They must do that every week. I haven't talked about money in a long, long, long time. But I do believe that it's one of the things that marriages struggle with. Communication and finances are the two marriage killers. So the Bible talks about money. Jesus talked about money. He talked a lot about heaven. He talked even more about hell. And he talked a lot about money. And so today we're going to take these biblical principles. They're so practical and just lay them out there. because things have gotten worse with the pandemic. But in most households, I would characterize what it was like pre-pandemic with 3 B's this morning. You ready? Big bills, bank loans, and bad mistakes. A lot of people have made them. So this morning, listen, I'm going to reach back. There's a guy named Ron Blue. Dave Ramsey's the big authority on money today. There was a guy named Ron Blue that had a book. It was called Master Your Money. And he wrote this years ago. Listen to this. According to the Social Security Administration, only 2% of Americans reach age 65 financially independent. 30% are dependent on charity. 23% must continue to work. And 45% are dependent on relatives. Additionally, 85 out of 100 Americans, I'm going to repeat that, 85 out of 100 Americans have less than $250 when they reach age 65. According to Denby's economic tables, fewer men are worth $100 at age 68 than they were at age 18. After 50 years of hard work, in other words, they have worked hard for 50 years and have not been able to save at least $2 each year. Now think about that for just a minute. And I believe and would contend that it's because we violated biblical principles. And if we apply these principles, we're not going to be in that percentage right there. So now, financial mismanagement, sure, it ruins your credit. So it's going to apply to everybody today. Financial mismanagement is going to put you in ruin. Financial mismanagement will destroy your marriage. So if you're married today, listen close. Turn over to Luke chapter 19. We're going to work right through the story in verses 11 through 27. Just taking this chapter today. I'm going to have some other verses in there too. But in this passage, we're going to keep coming back to Luke chapter 19. Luke chapter 19 all the way through. So I'm going to give you some principles very quickly, and then we'll wrap it up for the 4 that are marriage specific. Here we go. The first one. Everything we have comes from God. Everything that we have comes from God. Every one of us in this room has to realize that. And look with me at verse 11. Now as they heard these things, he spoke another parable because he was near Jerusalem and because they thought the kingdom of God would appear immediately. Now that's a key point because this whole parable is, and a parable, you know, is an earthly story with a heavenly meaning. He's telling them the story that they can relate to so that they get the message, the point he's trying to get across. And so here Jesus is, them thinking the kingdom is coming immediately. Look at verse 12. So he said, a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and then to return. And so he called 10 of his servants and he delivered to them 10 pounds or minas. Those pounds, approximately 3 months' worth of wages. So he distributed to these 10 each 3 months' worth of wages, about $2,000 if you were looking at today's value. That's more than these slaves in that time would have ever even owned. So he gave them more than they would ever get, and he said, you take care of it till I return. So understand this. Let me just start right here because this is such a practical thing. This story shows us that this money did not belong to those that he gave it to, correct? They were stewards. The finances still belonged to the owner. But while he was gone, he had given it to someone else to take care of. If we understand that and we put that into practical application today, we understand that everything we have belongs to God. And man, if we get that, it totally changes our whole perspective on our money, our possessions. If we know that they're not ours, we're going to treat them hopefully even better. I know I was always taught when you borrow something, you return it in better condition than what you received it. But when it comes to our material possessions, we have taken ownership and we have tried to take it away from God. If we will put this in perspective, it's going to change it. It's God's on loan to us. Deuteronomy chapter 8 is such a key phrase, key verse. Deuteronomy chapter 8, if you're quick, turn over there with me. But Deuteronomy chapter 8, beginning in verse 13, it says this. Now, let me back up because we read this last week. So I want to put this in perspective. I read to you Deuteronomy chapter 6. Pastor Robert had read to you from Deuteronomy chapter 7. Both of those passages last week talked about all the blessings that God has given to us. I'm going to read to you this morning from Deuteronomy chapter 8. He's driving the point home, but then look how he concludes it. Deuteronomy chapter 8, beginning of verse 13. And when your herds and your flocks multiply, and your silver and your gold are multiplied, and all that you have is multiplied. Man, that sounds good, right? To this point, it's like, yes. Verse 14. When your heart is lifted up, and you, what's the next word? Forget. When your heart is lifted up, and you forget who? The Lord. When you have all this stuff and it's coming your way and it is multiplying and it is growing, and man, you're picking the right stocks and you got the right retirement investments, your business is booming, you got everything you want. When your heart is lifted up, he said, and you forget the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, from the house of bondage, verse 15, who led you through the great and terrible wilderness, in which there were fiery serpents and scorpions and thirsty land where there was no water, who brought water for you out of a rock, who fed you in the wilderness with manna, which your fathers did not know, that he might humble you and that he might test you to do you good in the end. You hear that? Don't miss this. He's saying, man, you had everything you needed. And even in the worst spots in the wilderness, I was walking there with you. When you had a need, I provided. If it was manna, if it was water from a rock, you never went without. You had exactly what you needed. Then he gets to verse 17. Then you say in your heart, after I've given you all this stuff, taken such good care of you, my power and the might of my hand have gained me this wealth. You talk about an ungrateful people. Verse 18, and you shall remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers, as it is this day. Then it shall be, if you by any means forget the Lord your God, and you follow other gods, little g, and serve them and worship them, listen to this statement. I testify against you this day that you shall surely perish. What a warning. Now, back there to the children of Israel, he is issuing this warning. The warnings carry over today. When we forget whose it is, when we think we made all the wealth, when you hear people say, look what I've done, I'm the self-made man, I don't need anybody to tell me what to do. I have seen people in business so arrogant that they've done it all, and they miss this one little verse that says, it's God, it's through his hand that you've gained wealth. He's the one that gives the power to get wealth. It's God's blessing. And man, if we forget that, we have all of a sudden moved into ownership rather than stewardship. We start saying, look at me, and just as it says here, we forget the Lord. And that's when that curse is placed. Man, so what do we do? What did God set up to remind us of this? In the Old Testament, we find the tithe. The tithe is just a simple way. Some of you are saying, I knew he'd get the tithing. Listen, it was God's plan, okay? So when you get to God's plan in the Old Testament for giving 10% back, God's plan says, I just want you to remember who owns it. That's all I want you to do. Some of you remember a couple of years ago, I had Kenny come up here, and I had 10 $1 bills. Now, we had one of our teenagers. Kenny comes up here. He's got nothing, okay? He walks up here with nothing, and I hand him 10 bucks. I said, Kenny, here's the deal. You can keep 9 as long as you give me 1 back. What do you think he did? He gave me 1 back. Now, that's a pretty good deal. The guy comes up here with nothing. He walks down with 9. He could have said, I'm keeping it all. No, I want 10. In which case, I would have said, no, I want my money back. But the idea, it's an object lesson on tithing. The idea is God gives us everything and just says, I want you to give me a 10th back so that you remember where it came from. Now, for those of you that would think, oh, God's just asking for my money. No, you've missed it. You've moved into ownership rather than stewardship. Remember, it all belongs to him. He just wanted that little bit back. It's his anyway. The other thing we have forgotten here with the 10% is that's Old Testament. In the Old Testament, it was the law. That was the starting point. In the New Testament, it's grace. I've preached this over the last couple of weeks, so let me just give you 2 illustrations to drive the point home and keep moving. Old Testament says, don't commit adultery. New Testament raises the standard and says, don't even look at a woman to lust after her. The Old Testament says, thou shalt not kill. The New Testament raises the standard and says, don't even hate. The Old Testament said 10% was the tithe. The New Testament, the Apostle Paul teaches grace giving. You see the churches that are in need, the church there at Jerusalem, they're gathering funds to send to those churches to help that church at Jerusalem, to help one another. Grace always exceeds the law. So when it comes to giving, if you're tithing, you're doing the Old Testament law minimum amount. Grace giving exceeds the law. So all of this just comes back to saying, hey, God, it's yours to start with. That's why we tithe. It's just to say, thank you, Lord. Thank you for counting me as a steward. The second point we get here, number 2, Christ must be Lord of our business. He must be the Lord of our business. In Luke chapter 19 again, look at verse 13. The second part of the verse, it says, the nobleman said, do business till I come. Do business till I come. I have seen people that try to separate their business from their Christianity. I've talked to people that have said, I don't do business with Christians. I've had Christian businessmen I've done business with that I wish I would have never done it with. I got so skeptical at one point that when people put the little fish symbol that's on the back of a lot of cars, when they put it on their business card, I didn't call them. Because so oftentimes they were just fishing for prospects and their Christianity wasn't real. Now, since then, I've moved away from that. I don't use that as my guidance. But I got burned a few times because people who call themselves Christians don't do business like Christians. And our testimony comes through in our business. Are we honest? Are we dishonest? Do we treat people right? Do we show them Christ even in the way we do business? And if we don't, shame on us, because Colossians 3:23 tells us this: whatever you do, do it heartily as unto the Lord. Everything we do, personally, career-wise, whatever we do it heartily as to the Lord. Don't cheat in business. It ruins your Christian testimony. The third thing we've got to realize, these basic principles, that God has the right to hold us accountable. When he gives us these things, he has the right to hold us accountable on whether we steward or whether we hoard or whether we own. Look at verse 14. But his citizens hated him. This guy that had left, remember? Citizens hated him, and they sent a delegation after him saying, we will not have this man to reign over us. They hated accountability. There are not a lot of people today that like accountability, but it's a good principle. It's a good practice. These citizens, they were angry with this guy. They didn't want him looking over their stuff, which really wasn't their stuff. The accountability factor that comes in there, we have to understand there should be good, healthy practices in business, good, healthy practices in the church. All of these things are so important because the fact is that our business is God's business. And the resources that he's given to us, he oftentimes will give through us and hold us accountable, whether or not we kept giving, or whether we just started collecting, or whether he allowed us to be a funnel so that we could bless others. The fourth principle, wise financial management pleases God. Look at verse 15. Wise financial management pleases God. Listen to this. And so it was that when he returned, having received the kingdom, he then commanded these servants to whom he had given the money to be called to him, that he might know how much every man had gained by trading. Then came the first, saying, Master, your pound has earned 10 pounds. And he said to him, well done, good servant. Because you were faithful in a very little, have authority over 10 cities. Verse 18, the second came, and he said, Master, your pound has earned 5 pounds. And likewise, he said to him, you also be over 5 cities. A wise steward makes the master, the owner, very proud. When he gives us a little and he finds us faithful, then God knows he can trust us with more. Some people say, I don't know why God won't bless me with more. The first question would be, how faithful have we been with the little? You say, when I start making more money, then I'll begin to tithe. I would tell you that if you're not faithful with a little, God's not going to bless you with a lot. These are just basic principles. These are biblical, spiritual principles that we're looking at here. So as you look at this, understand that this guy goes out, he makes the right investments. The first one, 10 times the amount. He gained that for the owner. The next one, 5, and he's blessed 5 times over. But then we get to the last one, and look at the next point, poor financial management. Well, that displeases God. So why is financial management pleases the Lord? Foolish or poor financial management displeases the Lord. Look at verse 20. We're just going through the story he wrote for us. Then another came, saying, Master, here's your pound, which I have kept, put away in a handkerchief, for I feared you, because you're an austere man. You collect what you did not deposit, and you reap what you did not sow. The master said to him, out of your own mouth I will judge you, you wicked servant. You knew that I was an austere man, collecting what I did not deposit and reaping what I did not sow. He just blessed these other guys. Well done, here's your reward. Well done, here's your reward. You did what? And he looks here and he says, you got to be kidding. You took everything I had blessed you with and you did nothing with it? You didn't even put it in the bank to gain a little bit of interest? Don't forget, this is an earthly story with a heavenly meaning. God has blessed us with resources, so the question this morning is, what have you done with the resources that God has blessed you with? Have you invested them? Are they hidden? What are you going to present to the master when he returns? Because all of these things are his. And here are a couple of thoughts. Some don't invest because they don't have faith. Say, I can't tithe. I can barely make ends meet. That's fear over faith. The fear is God can't handle this. The fear is that God can't meet my needs. I have to do this all myself. The faith is if I do what God has commanded, I'll be blessed. And we just have it backwards sometimes. God is not going to reward us for hoarding. The day will come when if God is giving through us to others and we start taking for ourselves, that God will stop giving through us and he will also stop giving to us. Understand, that's just the way the principle works here. Sometimes people are just ignorant of biblical principles, and I understand that. Sometimes people give God leftovers because they don't know any better. Sometimes they go into debt because they just don't know any better. They lack personal discipline in some of these things. They try the get-rich-quick schemes. Listen, all these get-rich-quick schemes, the only ones that ever benefit are the ones that started them. I promise you. You look at it, and some even mistake it, and they equate poverty with spirituality. God never said that in his word. Here's another one. Every family needs a financial plan. Look at verse 23. Why then did you not put my money in the bank, that at my coming I might have collected some interest? I think it's because the guy had no plan. He didn't know what to do with it. It says he hid it. He hid it. He didn't even know where to get started. Today, a lot of couples struggle because they don't have a budget. It's one of the simplest tools. Our daughters, when they left our house, we helped them with a budget. There are so many tools online. You can just download Excel spreadsheets with all of the formulas already in them. You just put in your income, you put in your expenses. It shows you what you have at the end of the month. You can make your adjustments. It is without excuse today. The tools are there. It's so easy to do. So not doing it is just a mistake on our part. But I got to tell you, the first two things ought to be your tithe. And then your taxes. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But the first step in budgeting really is tithing. And it's because Malachi chapter 3, verse 8 asks a simple question. Will a man rob God? If I ask you this morning how many in this room were tithing, and you say, well, I just can't do that, or I haven't come to that point yet, I can give you illustration after illustration of people who have tithed that have been blessed. I'll also tell you this, been in ministry 35 years. For 35 years, I've been in churches, whether I was a senior pastor or a staff pastor, where we've made this promise. If you tithe faithfully, and at the end of the year you are not blessed, you say, God did not bless me through this, we will return 100% of the money that you have given for that year. You say, Pastor, seriously? Yeah, and in 35 years, we've never returned any money. Never even had anybody ask. Because God is faithful. I even had a guy come up to me one time, owned a business, that he said, I've tried this before, it doesn't work. He said, but you made that promise. You'll give everything back. I'm tracking it, and I'm going to let you know. Long story short, at the end of the year, he came up. He says, God has so blessed my business. He said, or blessed me. This year, I'm tithing on my business. So he started tithing on his business. The next year, he says, we're not only tithing on the business, we are taking on missionaries and supporting missionaries with our business. The next year, he says, we're not only tithing on the business, my wife and I, we're tithing. We're tithing on the profits of the business. We're supporting missionaries from our business. This year, we're sending people on missions trips. He said, I'm doing better than I've ever done. Here's my answer to that. Duh. I know that's deep. And in Greek, it's said like this. Duh. Here's the answer. God is faithful. Man, if you haven't figured that out yet, you are missing one of the biggest blessings. But in Malachi, it asks this question. Will a man rob God? Well, who's foolish enough to do that? Evidently some, because it says, yet you have robbed me. And we say, wherein have you robbed God? He says, in tithes and offerings. He tells us what to do, and we choose not to do it, to keep what belongs to him. That's stealing. And yet, it has been a problem with Christians through the ages. And people say, I just can't get it together. Can't make it work. Well, let me tell you how. This is the last general principle. Number 7. God blesses those who follow his plan. Verse 24. And he said to those who stood by, take the pound from him, that guy that didn't invest it anywhere. Give it to him who has 10 pounds. That's a little different than the mentality today, isn't it, from what you're hearing? Take the pound from him that didn't do anything with it, and then give it to the one that already has 10 pounds. But they said to him, Master, he has 10 pounds. For I say to you that to everyone who has will be given, and from him who does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him. Now, you apply that principle, and you'll understand where some of the practices and principles in government are heading these days. And you do the math, and you figure it out. I'm not going down that route today. But I want you to understand this. The Bible teaches that those that don't work don't eat. When we have all these other programs and we encourage people not to do any of these things, we're encouraging them to violate biblical principles. And God's not going to bless that. Believers who follow these biblical principles, it says, will be blessed. When we are faithful, we're blessed with more. Those who refuse to follow the biblical principles, they're going to lose. And I just got to tell you, I have never to this day done any financial counseling with a couple who tithes. I've done a lot of financial counseling through the years, but I've never to this day, not one time, ever done financial counseling to a couple who is tithing. Because usually when we have this principle in place, two things. One, we're better stewards of our money. And two, God blesses just as he says he will. So let me wrap it up with some brief principles that are definitely just aimed right at marriage and right actions. And this is going to help you. The first one kind of general here. But if you're just applying these last 4 things to wrap this up and summarize, it's this. Number 1, tithing and taxes are not optional. Tithing and taxes are not optional. Tithing we've already talked about, so let's move on to the taxes part. As Christians, we have an obligation. We are, yes, citizens of heaven, but we're also citizens of earth. While we're here, we have a responsibility, and Jesus taught on this. Matthew 22, beginning in verse 18, he says this, show me the tax money. So they brought him a denarius, and he said to them, whose image and inscription is this? They said to him, it's Caesar's. And he said to them, render therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. It's a real simple teaching. As citizens of earth, we need to be faithful in what we give, and just like anyone else. And so when you put this into practice, the reality is that we, and I've heard this, the reason I'm mentioning it is I've heard Christians through the years say we shouldn't be paying taxes. And I want to tell you that that's not a biblical perspective. We, taking a biblical perspective, would follow Jesus' teaching, render therefore to Caesar that which is Caesar's. Now, do we like it? Absolutely not. In fact, let me do a quick survey. How many of you all wish you didn't have to pay taxes? Yeah. But we do. It's just, it's part of our obligation. When you set up your budget, those 2 things are some of the top 2 things you got to figure in. Here's another one. Number 2, avoid getting into debt. Avoid getting into debt. For our married couples today, for our single adults today, I want to encourage you, don't get into debt. Romans 13, verse 8. In the NIV, it reads so good. It says this, let no debt remain outstanding. The King James, it says, owe no man anything. When you read these verses, you understand that the deeper you get into debt, the harder it is to get out of debt. One of the things I'm trying to encourage young couples, I hear people constantly say, we have to buy a house, we have to buy a house, we have to buy a house. You don't have to buy a house until you're ready for that house. And then you don't buy one that's bigger than your parents'. Buy what you can afford. My wife and I, she was in the first service. I wish I could show you all the pictures. We were so blessed. Our first house, we had to get a mortgage, and it cost $35,000. I wish I had that house today. I really do. I have no idea what it would be selling for today, but this house had holes in the walls. The doors were off all the I mean, when I say holes in the walls, holes in the walls. 3 layers of carpet. I kid you not. I wish I could show you. You'd stand at the street, and the roof went like this. We got up there with a floor jack and 4x4s and jacked up the roof and put in the supports. And I mean, it was work. Some of the happiest days of our life. You know how big that house was? 900 square feet. If you have an apartment, my house, which was 3 bedrooms and 1 bath, which that was tough, being married, 1 bathroom. 900 square feet. I'd take it in a heartbeat. Some of our most fun days, our best days. It's not the size of the house that makes people happy. It's not how much money you have that makes people happy. I've seen some of the poorest people that are the happiest, and I've seen some of the richest people that are the most unhappy. Live within your means. If you are borrowing money to make ends meet, you are on a road to disaster. In business, if you're borrowing money for operations, you do realize that's a failing business. The more you borrow, ultimately, you're going to be downhill quick. If you're living from your savings, you're going to be in trouble at some point. You have to be putting in if you're going to be taking out. Mortgages aren't a bad thing. Let me explain this. I instruct people on what I call manageable debt. Some churches have mortgages. We're very blessed in what God's done here, and we're looking forward to what is he going to do next. We were already talking with an architect before all this pandemic stuff hit. Where are we going from here? How are we going to reach more people? But when you get a mortgage, as long as it's manageable, that's the key. It's got to be manageable. When you get a car loan, it has to be manageable. You say, yeah, but I want a Bentley. Me too. I don't have one. And probably never, if I could afford one, I probably wouldn't go buy one. I'd put it on something else. But yeah, I would love to ride around in a Bentley. But the truth is I drive a Toyota, and I get there from one place to the next, and I'm just fine. You don't get there any faster than I do. And to be truthful about it, if you're driving a Bentley, you're probably parking in 2 spots so nobody scratches your car. Me, I can just pull right in. I got a lot less worries than you do. Get what you can afford. Live within your means. Using credit cards, pay them off. If you charge only what you can afford, you're going to be much better off. Let me give you an illustration. I heard this years ago, and you do the math, and it's true. If you're having a baby, imagine this. You're a young couple, you're getting ready to have a baby, and you want to decorate the nursery. Man, everybody wants to have the finest for their kids, and you go and you get the best bassinet, you get the best playpen, and you decorate it all up, and you spend $5,000 and put it on a credit card. You know, if you paid interest only, do you know when you would pay that card off? When your child was almost 40 years old. Think about that. Let that sink in for a minute. Those that live off credit cards. There are so many of these simple principles and practices, and if you're struggling with finances, I'll tell you, we got some good folks in our church that can help teach you some of these principles. I always encourage with Pastor Dwayne. He teaches a class with one of the Dave Ramsey series. Man, next time we offer it, you need to get in there. Do it. Here's the third thing. Work hard and save. Work hard and save. Proverbs chapter 6, verses 6 through 11. In the NLT, I love the way it reads. Listen to this. Take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. Learn from their ways and become wise. Verse 8, they labor hard all summer. They gather food for winter, but you lazy bones, how long will you sleep? When will you wake up? A little extra sleep, a little more slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. Then poverty will pounce on you like a bandit. Scarcity will attack you like an armed robber. Biblical principles. Man doesn't work, he doesn't eat. That's what the Bible teaches. Proverbs 21, verse 20 in the NIV, it says, "The wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools, they gulp theirs down." 1 Corinthians 16:2, the NLT, it reads, "On the first day of each week, you should each put aside a portion of the money you've earned. Don't wait until I get there and then try to collect it all at once." That's what people do with retirement. Rather than saving along the way, they try to do it all at the end, and they just can't catch up. I remember my wife and I sitting in that same little house I told you about in our early 20s and saving $5 a month for retirement. You say, what? That's useless. Oh, no. You'd be quite surprised what $5 a month can do. And then obviously, as we were able, we kept increasing that. It's just the same principles here. You save for the time when you can't harvest anymore. If you're utilizing a budget, I already touched on it, but I want to encourage you. Include savings, include retirement. Live on about 80% and make sure of your net, and then make sure that you're able to pay those bills. It's just good stewardship. Last but not least, listen to this. Most important point I'm going to share with you this morning, and we're wrapping up. Lay up for yourself treasures in heaven. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 8 says, "And having food and clothing, with these we shall be content." We worry so much about getting more and getting more and getting more and getting more. And the truth is that God said, man, if you just have food and clothes, be content. And the older I get, and the more I realize that, you know what, that's really all life's about. It's not about getting more and more and more stuff. Stuff doesn't bring happiness. You know what brings happiness? Family, memories, serving, investing in others. You start to see a life that has changed. You lead a person to come to know Christ. You watch them grow in their faith. Man, you are investing in such a way that there is no trip you'll ever take, there is no home you'll ever own, there's no car you'll ever drive that will bring you more satisfaction and more joy than watching a person that you invested in come to know the Lord and to grow in their faith. And they begin to share that with others. Wow. Here's another one, Matthew 6, verses 19 through 21. "But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." The old-time preachers used to say this. The old-time pastors would say, "Show me your checkbook, and I'll show you where your heart is." Now, I say old-time because I was in an Advance Auto store just a few months back, getting something for the car, and I walked up, and I was behind a guy that was paying for a battery. Went out and got a check from his wife in the car and brought it in and gave it to the guy at the counter to fill out the check. The guy's in his mid to late 30s. He says, "Sir, I got to tell you, I've never filled out one of these in my life." That's why I say the old-time preachers. You could tell by our age who's using checks these days and who's using the money apps, right? Look on your bank statement if you're using the app. Look in your checkbook if you're still using checks. And see where you're spending, and you'll be able to see where your heart is. Are you investing in missions? Are you faithfully tithing? Are you helping others? Where are you putting your money? You'll know where your heart's at. But here's the greatest investment. Invest in your soul first. If you have all the money in the world, what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world? He loses his own soul. Think about that for a minute. You can be the most successful business person out there. You can have the biggest house of anybody in the church. You can drive the fanciest car. You can be called with all the different letters after your name. You can do all that. But the truth is that if you've not invested in your soul and invited Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior, then it's all for nothing. So I want to encourage you this morning, when it comes to being a faithful steward, let's steward our lives first. Salvation, discipleship, and then the other stuff that comes after. So I'm going to ask you, would you bow your heads and close your eyes for a moment? Have you invited Christ into your life? Have you prayed and asked God to forgive you for your sin? To come into your life, to be your Lord and Savior? If you haven't, today's the day. And there's no amount of money you can pay to be right with God. That's just simply an act of humility, confessing our sin, realizing it's the blood of Jesus Christ that washes away our sin, that paid the penalty for our sin. and inviting Christ into your life? If you've done that, then I ask you, how are you serving? What kind of investments are you making? You've invested in your soul. You've called upon Christ as your Savior. But the way we invest resources tells us whether or not He's really our Lord. So I want to pray for you this morning. And if you've not invited Christ into your life, I'd love for you to do that this morning. Just admit you're a sinner. Admit that salvation comes only through the cross of Jesus Christ, and the blood that was shed. And then invite Him in. For those of you this morning that maybe this has touched the nerve, maybe you're fighting over some financial things in your home. Maybe you haven't been faithfully trusting God with resources. Maybe this morning you realize, hey, I've been treating this like it's mine, and I have really misplaced my priorities and thinking that this is God's. I need to be a better steward. Whatever it is, you pray for yourself as I pray for you this morning. Father, I want to thank you for this time. So many principles, and again, just rapid fire. Lord, there's so much, and I'm going to pray today that folks have taken good notes and they review this at home and they evaluate their own life, how they're treating your resources. But God, I pray for those families that haven't been doing it right, that they'd have the courage to start. And I pray for those this morning that realize that the greatest step of stewardship is stewardship of their soul, inviting Christ to be their Savior. And if there are any in here this morning that have not taken that step, I pray that today is that day. Pray that we would exercise faith over fear, that we'd understand stewardship over ownership, that we would invest in eternity, and that we would reap your rewards as we begin to bless others and do the work of the ministry. And I pray that in Jesus' name. Amen. Hey, this morning, I mention it each week, but we have yellow cards. We're starting to put them back in the bulletins that you received on your way in this morning. Those yellow cards are like bread and butter to me. We're going to do a couple things with those this morning. If you're a guest, would you fill out that yellow card? Let us know that you're here with us. I'd love to tell you about what's going on here at Grace. If you prayed with me for salvation this morning, you said, I want to have this relationship with Christ. Or maybe you're still saying, you know, I'm not certain, but I'd like to talk to somebody about it. There are some spots on that card where you can check the right one, and we'll give you a phone call. We'll text you, whatever, set something up, whatever format's best for you, okay? If you're thinking about baptism or church membership, there's things on there for that as well. On the bottom, there's this place where you can just write out any prayer requests that you have. Would you take time, jot that down? And in a moment, I'm going to show you a video that we're going to close with this morning. And if you want to be added to this, and when you see it, you're going to go, wow, I didn't even know we had that. If you have not yet been added, I want you to use that card, so keep it handy. And before you leave, I want you to take those yellow cards, and if you would, drop them in the boxes at the back of this room. Tithes and offerings, we're doing the same way, just collecting in the boxes. Those that are watching online, the card I just described, go to the nav bar, click on Connect, and it's the first thing in the drop-down menu. It's the same thing as what we have on our yellow cards, and you can also give on the website as well. But hey, a couple quick things. One, this week is our Renewing Your Passion Bible Conference. I am telling you, you don't want to miss. Wednesday night, Guy Melton from Oasis Church, very large, multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-generational church down in Pembroke Pines. They were one of the very first ever to start the Christmas light displays that people drive through. They've been doing this 25 years or better. Guy has biked from South Florida, Hollywood to New York City. He's biked from San Diego back to Hollywood, Florida, raising money for Haiti. It's just, he's got a heart and a passion for missions and the church, and you're going to be encouraged Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. Thursday night is Chris Lane. He doesn't need a lot of introduction here. Chris graduated from Highlands. He has served here, I think, as interim pastor at one point. He's high energy. We support First Priority. That's 7 o'clock on Thursday night. You're in for a treat. If you're here to hear Chris, hang on, because it's like drinking out of a fire hydrant. And then Michael Chinqui is going to be with us on Friday. And Michael is a guy that has poured his life into Pastor Dwayne. He's just an amazing guy, works with Food for the Poor, and he is the director of their church relationships or alliances. And you're in for a treat on Friday night as well. He is passionate about reaching people with the gospel. I watched him online and said, man, we got to have this guy come challenge us. So this week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then in your bulletin, one other thing that you're going to drop in the box. This sheet is in there. Wave that at me. I want to make sure you found it, okay? Did you get, come on. I want to make sure I want to make sure you got them. All right, I'm seeing some. It's in there. Grab it. All right. Why, Pastor, why are you putting pressure on? Because here's what we need. Listen, we are blessed to be able to host this conference. It's called Refuel. It's the one that they do at Thomas Road Baptist Church up in Lynchburg each year with literally thousands of pastors that go. Well, this year, because of COVID, last year it was online. This year they're taking it across the nation. It's in 6 churches. Count them. I need 2 hands. But 6. That's it. 6. We're one of them. They are bringing the conference here, and it is going to be amazing. So we're inviting local pastors. We're inviting local staff members, lay leaders, and every one of you. Man, if you can take a day off, I'm telling you, it's going to be worth your time. You're hearing some great speakers. There are 4 main sessions. There are 3 breakout sessions. If you're available and you want to help us, that's what this sheet is for. We need volunteers. We've got these people coming to our campus. We want to greet them well. We want to have greeters outside at the doors, people that can point people the right directions. We're having lunch from Chick-fil-A that day. We're doing box lunches. Somebody to help us set those up, somebody to go pick them up, have everything out in the lobby so that they can go through, grab their box, and then go to their next session. We're going to eat while we listen, just to keep the day rolling. You'll see some of the other things, hospitality team, runners. If you can help us with those things, fill that out this morning and drop that in this box as well, and we would sincerely appreciate that. Now, on your sheet that you received, you're going to see there's one more announcement. I'm going to ask Jennifer Panera if she'll come and tell us what's going on tonight at 5 o'clock.
Hey guys. Hi. Tonight, we have our bonfire, hot dogs on a stick, and s'mores. We have tons of people who are coming to serve, who've signed up. We also have 4 fire masters to keep all the pyromaniacs safe and the children. It's going to be great. We have cornhole, and a hula hoop contest. There'll be 4 different age categories. So we'll have the little ones and teenagers and older. So I hope you come out, have fun. This is all about fellowship. So it starts at 5. Do you know where the playground is? It's right behind that, behind the Edge Center. Starts at 5. It goes to 7:30. Just come out and have a great time together. See you tonight.
All right, we're making s'mores, hot dogs. I mean, it's going to be a good time. If you know where the pavilion is or the back gate, the Edge Center is our youth building, and we're going to be right back there having a great time. Last thing, I promised you, there's a quick video. It really is very, very short. I want you to see what we're offering to you, and then I'm going to tell you how to be part of it, and then we're going to dismiss. Turn your attention to the screens if you would.
Welcome to our study of the Gospel of John.
I have fallen in love with the work of Paul as I've studied the book of 1 Corinthians, and I believe you will too.
This is where Jesus taught in Capernaum, and you have to understand this scene.
The Lord is my shepherd. And over the next 6 weeks, we're going to look deeply into the 23rd Psalm.
Right Now Media. It's for groups. It's for personal devotion. It's for parents.
The bullseye of parenting is to raise children who become like Jesus.
It's for kids.
This is Phil. We're digging into the Bible, which, as we've mentioned, is more than just a book.
It's for tough times.
So when you recognize that you're trying to have a conversation with your spouse and they're not ready to talk, it's not helpful to keep pressing them.
It's for every phase of life.
If you've made mistakes with money, you know what that makes you? Over 12.
And now, it's yours. We've purchased a Right Now Media subscription for everyone in our church. So check your inbox for the digital invitation and download the app for instant access to thousands of biblically based videos. Get equipped. Get inspired.
Well, we have purchased that for our church. We've actually had it for several years, but we're noticing that some of you probably don't even know you have the opportunity to log into this. So all of you that are here this morning, here's what you need to do. On that yellow card, if you want to have access to this, it is 100% free. It's already taken care of. So if you want to have access to all these Bible studies, if you're a parent with young kids, this is like the Christian Netflix. I mean, there are thousands of videos for kids that are Christian-based. you're not going to find better. And so if you want to have a part of that, here's what you do. On your yellow card, where the section is there, you can write it across the top on the front or down at the bottom on the back. Write down your email address and then just write Right Now Media, okay, or Right Now. And what you'll do is this week we're going to send you an invitation. It'll come in your email. Check your inbox. It's not coming from Grace. It'll come from Right Now Media, so be looking for that. If you don't see it in the next couple of days, check your spam folder. Sometimes they go in there. But literally all you have to do is open that email, click on the link, put in your email address, and then pick a password, and you are set. And you have full access to all of these things. You can use them for home Bible studies. There are books on here that you won't even have to purchase the book. You can just use the Bible study right there online. So this is a tremendous resource. So if you'd like to have it, again, free. Just put your email on that yellow card, drop it in those boxes, and Pastor Dwayne will get you an invitation within the next couple of days. You should see it in your inbox. Let's stand together. We're going to close with a word of prayer, and thank you for being here this morning. God bless these folks. Give us a wonderful week. Father, as we have listened this morning, there are some that need to steward their soul and call on Christ as Savior. There are some that need to be stewards of the resources that you have given to them and to set things up in a right way so that they're making an investment rather than just hoarding those resources. God, there are some that are in an absolute mess financially, and that creates stress in marriage. So I pray this morning that whoever that might be, that you would lead them to some of these resources, whether it's Dave Ramsey next time we offer a course, whether it's some of the folks in our church that can help to direct them. But God, I pray you'd provide their needs. For those that have not yet selected to tithe, Lord, give them that faith this week. Take away the fear and cause them to put their faith in you to provide their needs and to be reminded of where all this stuff comes from. But God, we're just blessed. Our church family is blessed, and I want to thank you that even during this pandemic that we were prepared before it came, and that we as a church family are faithful and still giving even through it in a way that we can support our missionaries, that we can do ministry. And God, just continue to expand our borders. We pray that in Jesus' name. Amen. We're dismissed. Thanks for being here this morning. Have a great week.